Welcome to Module 5, Proving Triangles Congruent. And today we are going to talk about I can prove triangles congruent. So before we prove them congruent, we talk about what are triangles congruent. So when all the parts of one triangle are congruent to all the corresponding parts of another triangle. So if we see these two triangles here, you see that all sides and all angles are congruent. That's same size, same shape. That's congruent triangles. So corresponding parts. We have corresponding sides and angles. So if you see corresponding sides, so AC is going to be congruent to XZ. Because they are both congruent. And we could put tick marks if we wanted. AB is going to be congruent to XY. Because this side is the same as that side, and then our last side. And I'm putting tick marks on there. BC is congruent to YZ. And then we have angles. So angle A is congruent to angle X. Angle B is congruent to angle Y. And angle C is congruent to, congruent to angle Z. So those are corresponding sides and angles. It's the ones that match up and they're the ones that are congruent. Your triangle congruent statement is how they match up. So I say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle, and then I have to match up. So X goes with A, Y goes with B, and Z goes with C. So the letters have to match up. Otherwise, the congruent statement is false. Okay? Alright, so sometimes we are given a congruent statement, like this one right here, and that tells us what to put, what tick marks to put where. So, So if I look, okay. If I look at T is congruent to P, and then J is congruent to H, and how I'm finding these is it is in the first position, and then the second position, and then the third position. 3, and then this is 3. When I'm doing sides, I do the same thing. TJ is here, so that means PH. TJ and PH. And then JM and SH, and then our last side. So after you get all your tick marks on, then it makes this a lot easier to fill out your congruence, the problems. So angle P is congruent to, so it doesn't say measure or anything, it just says that it's congruent, so that means that you need to find the angle that's congruent, which is T. So then I say angle T. Number 3 says JM is congruent to, and if I could look at JM, it would be HS. And for these, I could just look at my congruent statement up here. I don't even have to look at my triangle. But now it says the measure, so now I have to find a degree. So the measure of angle M equals, well, if I look, M matches up with S, and if S is 48, that means M is 48. P, if T is 473, then P has to be 73. And then MT. So MT matches up with the SP, which is 5, so MT is also 5. And then the triangle HPS. So now I have to find what triangles match up with H and P and S, or what letters. So H matches up with J, P matches up with T, and S matches up with M. And I did that by looking at up here. Maybe I'll erase all of these. And I can show you. So I know that J matches up with H, and P matches up with T, and then our last one would be S matches up with M. Alright, so that is how they match up. So next page, I want you to pause it and to see if you can find the values of V, W, X, Y, and Z. And what you are going to do is you are going to use this congruent sign to put in some tick marks in your picture so then you know what is congruent. And then we'll talk about your answers. So pause the video, do the problem, and then we'll talk about it. Alright, so my first thing I did was I put angle inside tick marks on my picture. So I looked at my triangle congruent statement and I put in my tick marks, and then I put in all of this information over here into my picture. And then all I needed to do was look at my picture and find the ones that matched up. So 5x minus 4 equaled 91, and then I solved to find x is 19. 2y equaled 48, so then y is 24. My 4w plus 2 equals 18, so w is 4. My 2v and 30 matched up, so then v would be 15. And z minus 21 matches up with 15. And so my z, I put a line through it so it doesn't look like my 2's. So that is how I would solve this problem.